Happy New Year, fellow Yu-Gi-Oh fans! Welcome to my third Master Duel deck build and strategy guide video. This time featuring the magical doll collection, the royal rulers of the Kingdom of Sweets, Madolche. As usual, I'll be detailing the specific monster, spell, and trap cards that I use and some combos and strategies I picked up over the years. I'll also be detailing a few new ones that I learned since the new support was released. Thankfully, incorporating them wasn't that difficult, though getting used to them still took some time. Going 3 for 3, the Madolches are primarily an XC deck, and like the Ghost Tricks, the archetype also has links in its corner. Like any kingdom, the inhabitants follow a hierarchy based on their monster type. The beasts serve as the pets, the spellcasters and warriors are the servants, and the fairies are the highest ranked, the royalty. Furthermore, their names are all puns that incorporate their designated suite and the official position that they serve in the royal court. Or in the pet's case, their names are based on their suite and whatever sound their associated animals make. Additionally, the monsters of the main deck all share the effect of shuffling themselves back to the deck once they're destroyed and sent to the graveyard. I assume it's to repair themselves once they break, and keeping themselves unbroken is the basis for almost all of their combos. And unlike other players I've encountered, my build is pure and doesn't include a particular archetype with which all of those sheep like to taint theirs. Interestingly, this build doesn't have the exact 60 card count as my previous two decks did, though I'm still not playing it at half strength and tainting it with filth to compensate. Instead, this build utilizes 56 cards, with some space available for an optional card or two if deemed necessary. In my previous videos, I divided the monster spells and traps into essential and support categories, but this time around, given the deck's theme, I want to try something different. Imagine receiving a special invitation, the Madolche ticket, on an ordinary day. This ticket is not just a game changer, it's a strategic tool allowing you to add a Madolche monster to your hand if a Madolche card is returned to the hand or shuffled back into the deck. You also have the option to special summon the monster that you search if you control a member of the Madolche royalty. This is your key to unlocking powerful plays, so keep it at 3. With your invitation in hand, you make your way to the magical Kingdom of Sweets, where you feast your eyes on the delicious-looking Chateau de Gâteau, Madolche Chateau. When it's activated, you immediately return all Madolche monsters in your graveyard back into the deck. And while it remains face up on the field, any Madolche monsters shuffled into the deck can be returned to the hand instead. It also adds an additional 500 attack and defense points to all Madolche monsters on the field. Keep it at 3. Deep within the chateau, there's the Madolche Salon, a reception room where the royals hold meetings, host parties, and other things. Its effect grants an additional normal summon of a Madolche monster on your turn. Like Ticket, it has a mandatory effect that activates when a Madolche card in your possession is returned to the hand or deck. However, Salon lets you set a different Madolche spell or trap on your field rather than dealing with monsters. This versatility makes it a key part of your strategy, allowing you to adapt to various situations, so keep it at 3. One event in the Salon is the Royal Tea Break, one of the few times the royals have a chance to relax after a long day of work. And since it's so important, it takes priority over almost everything else. It can negate any activated spell or trap and return it to the hand. And if the first princess is present, she'll destroy another card your opponent controls. Keep it at 3. The royals also use the salon to host the first princess's dance lessons, as seen here with Madolche walls. And when they decide to dance, their lack of skill causes an additional 300 points of damage. The salon also acts as a playroom for the youngest princess to have fun with her pets. Madolche Dessert lets you target a Madolche monster and another effect monster on the field, return them to the hand, and then special summon a Madolche monster from your hand or extra deck that has equal or fewer attack points to the original combined attack points of the two returned monsters. It also has a graveyard effect that lets you attach it to an Exceed monster you control if a Madolche card is shuffled back into the deck or extra deck. Outside the chateau is the promenade, a place for the royals to take a relaxing walk when they aren't performing their duties. It also acts as a deterrent to most distractions that would ruin said walk. By targeting a Madolche on the field or in the graveyard and a face-up card your opponent controls, you can return the Madolche to your hand and negate your opponent's card effect. You can also banish it from your graveyard and attach a Madolche monster from the hand, deck, or graveyard to a Madolche Exceed monster that you control. This protective role makes it a valuable asset, so keep it at 3. And finally, the day ends and becomes Madolche Nights, where you wake up in your room to find all your dolls neatly put away and organized. When your opponent activates a monster effect, you can negate the effect, and if the first princess is present, she'll shuffle a random card in your opponent's hand back into the deck. Now that we're done touring les chateaux, I will introduce les habitants du château tout de suite, starting with les animaux de compagnie. The pets are a menagerie of level and Link 3 plush toy based beasts. The first on the list is the kitten plush Madolche Muffaye, based on the layered French dessert, the Millefaye. When it's normal summon, you can special summon another Madolche monster from your hand. There's a lot of potential for that, so keep it at 3. The following pet is the owl plush Madolche Hoopcake, based on the world famous breakfast staple, hotcakes, or pancakes to the uncultured. He can banish a monster from your graveyard and special summon a different Madolche monster from your deck. Keep him at 3. After the owl, we have the puppy plush, and the main reason I built the deck, Madolche Cruffsant, named after the French breakfast pastry, Le Cruffsant. His effect lets him target and return a Madolche card you control to the hand before increasing his level by 1 and giving him an extra 300 attack points. The remaining pets on the list are one of the latest additions to the collection, the trio of cat plushies, Madolche Mini Meowcaroons. Whoever did the English translation might have made a mistake because these little guys are based on macarons, not macaroons. So I'll be referring to them by their true name for this video. When they're link summoned, you can add any Madolche card to your hand from the deck. Their second effect lets you target a monster in your graveyard, special summon a Madolche from your hand, and then shuffle your target back into the deck. Now that we're done with the pets, we'll move on to the staff in charge of maintaining, protecting, and servicing Les Chateaux et la Famille Royale. The first servant is the resident magician Madolche Madolche, named after the French shell-shaped cake, the Madeleine. You can even see them on her witch brew. When she's normal or flip summoned, you can add a Madolche monster to your hand from your deck. Keep her at 3. Next is the knight in charge of protecting the royals, Madolche Juvellier. He's named after the French pastry jus à la crème, known to most as cream puffs. When you stack a bunch atop each other, you get a croquembouche. And I'm sure anyone caught up with One Piece knows terrible things happen when croquembouche is involved. Since he's the knight, his effect makes him the only Madolche monster on the field that can be targeted for attacks. After him, we have the royal mailman, Madolche Messengelato, named after the Italian dessert, gelato. Fitting for his role, his effect lets him deliver Madolche spell and trap cards to the hand from the deck if he special summon while you control one of the pets. Thankfully, these pets won't attack him when he tries to do his job, so keep him at 3. Next up is Le Chef des Domestiques du Château, Madolche Butlerusk. Named after rusk, dry, hard biscuits, breads, or cakes that you need to dip in your drinks to soften. His effect lets you add Madolche Chateau to your hand if you normal summon him while you control another Madolche monster. The final servant we'll cover is the royal housekeeper, Madolche Marmalade. She's named after marmalade, a preserve made from citrus fruits. Her effect lets her search the graveyard for a Madolche spell or trap and return it to the hand when she's flipped face up. With the servants taken care of, we can finally move on to the most important members of the royal court, the royalty. The first of the royals we'll go over is their holy protector, Madolche Angeli, named after, you guessed it, Jelly. By sacrificing herself, she can summon another Madolche monster from the deck and make it immune to battle destruction. though it'll be returned to the hand during your next end phase. Keep her at 3. The following royal is the second princess, Madolche Chateau, or Pudding Sis. Her name is based on le petit foie, those cute little pastries they serve in tea parties. So long as there are no monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon her from the hand. And if she's special summoned, you can special summon another Madolche monster from the deck and reduce its level by 1. Keep her at 3. Next is the first princess, Madolche Pudding Sis, named after one of my favorite desserts, pudding. If there are no monsters in your graveyard, she gains an additional 800 attack points. Also, after she battles an opponent's monster, she can target a card your opponent controls and destroy it after damage calculation. Her Exceed counterpart, Pudding Sis Chocolat à la mode, basically chocolate pudding topped with ice cream, is a bit different, much like her dress. She can shuffle a Madolche card in your graveyard back into the deck. She also has an additional effect that she can only activate if her main deck self is attached to her as an overlay unit. That being, when a Madolche card is shuffled back into the deck, you can detach an overlay unit and special summon a Madolche monster from the deck in either attack mode or face down. Now that we've gotten to the extra deck monsters, I'll introduce the Queen of the Kingdom, Madolche Queen Tiramisu, named after the Italian dessert tiramisu. With her effect, you can detach an overlay unit, target 2 Madolche cards in your graveyard, and shuffle them back into the deck before doing the same to 2 cards your opponent controls. Note that this is without targeting. Keep her at 3. Her ranked up version, Queen Tiara Fraiche, which is just her with strawberries added, has the same effect. However, hers is slightly better because she can do it on the opponent's turns as a quick effect. She also shares the effect of the main deck monsters, shuffling herself back into the extra deck if she's destroyed. The next member of the royals is the one in charge of the princess's education, Madolche Teacher Glace Soufflé, named after the French baked egg dish, the soufflé. Her effect lets her detach an overlay unit and target a Madolche monster you control to make it immune to your opponent's monster effects for the rest of that turn. Her second effect can trigger if a Madolche card is sent to the graveyard. You can shuffle up to 2 cards from either graveyard back into their respective decks. Finally, we have the last of the royals, the caller of Angeli's blessings, Madolche Fresh Sis Tart, named after the French dish, the tart, more specifically the fruit tart. When her link arrows point to a Madolche monster, her blessings are extended to the Madolche spells and traps, keeping them from being targeted and destroyed by card effects. Her second effect allows her to prevent her destruction by returning the departed Madolche to their rightful place in the deck. With the monsters now taken care of, we can move on to the fun part, the strategy guide. As I mentioned, this is a pure Madolche build with a 54 card count, including the usual generic cards used in most decks. The card count isn't too much of a hindrance because all the cards can be searched, summoned, or set directly from the deck. The archetype's primary strategies involve swarming, disruption, and graveyard manipulation. Being an Exceed Link deck, quickly getting as many monsters and support cards on the field as possible is always a top priority. Additionally, since most of the Madolche strategies rely on their spell and trap cards, not unlike the ghost tricks, learning how to utilize them properly is just as important. Thankfully, the archetype's unique playstyle allows you to build your forces and set up your support simultaneously. These strategies can be complicated, so I'll try to be as detailed as possible. When starting your turn, hopefully while going first, the most viable monsters for getting things started are Angeli, Magdalene, and Pudding Sis, and the spell cards you'll want are Salon and Ticket. Angeli and Magdalene can get Pudding Sis on the field or in the hand respectively, while Pudding Sis herself can net you at least 3 main deck special summons. My preferred combo is special summoning her from the hand, using her effect to summon Angeli, tributing Angeli to summon Hoot Cake, using him to banish Angeli from the graveyard to special summon Messin Gelato, and then using his effect to add the Madolche spell or trap that you need to your hand. If Salon isn't in your hand or already on the field, that's the card you'll want to add first. If not, add whichever card you feel is best for your situation. You really need to plan ahead, or you won't be able to utilize the archetype properly. For example, if you do all that and have Salon on the field, you'll get 2 normal summons, which can further your plays. Since you'll have 3 monsters from the Pudding Sis combo alone, there's a lot you can do. Suppose you have a Mew Foyer in your hand and another monster, say Gelato. In that case, you can summon Mew Foyer and use it to summon the other Gelato from your hand, giving you another spell or trap to search, since it's not a once per turn effect. Using Mew Foyer with Pudding Sis is also a good idea. Going back to the beginning, you can even start your Pudding Sis combo with the Mew Foyer. Butler Russ is also a good monster to have in the hand after the combo since he can add your field spell. Now let's say that these cards are on the field with Salon due to the Pudding Sis combo when Salon's extra normal summon. You have several options. My usual tactic is to summon Glass Souffle and then summon Sistart to trigger Glass Souffle's effect to shuffle Sistart's materials back into the deck, or the hand if Chateau is active, which also triggers Salon's effect to set a Madolche spell or trap. I prefer this combo because it keeps my continuous spells safe and allows me to make essential moves during my opponent's turn. However, the downside is that keeping the advantage during your opponent's turn becomes more difficult unless your disruptions are already set up. So, to mitigate that risk, you can choose to use 3 of your monsters to summon Meowcarons first instead. Use their effect to add Gelato, and then use their second effect to summon it from your hand, giving you another spell or trap search and triggering Salon's effect to set a card. From there, you can summon one of your XCs, preferably ones that can empty the monsters from your graveyard on your opponent's turn, like Glass Souffle or Tiara Fresh. If you do have Negate set up before your turn ends, then it's likely you won't need Sistart at the start. But I prefer to have her so I can focus my negates on effects that target my monsters. Adding to that, if you manage to get 5 Madolche monsters on the field on your first turn, you can summon Sistart first and then summon Meowcarons, allowing you to protect your back row and exploit the extra summoning they allow, especially if you have Ticket active too. You can also pull off several combos if you're unlucky enough not to start the duel with your best 3 starters. As mentioned, Euphoi can get things started if you have another Madolche monster in your hand. If Ticket and or Salon are on the field, you'll have plenty of options. Not counting Pudding Sis, Euphoi pairs well with Gelato and Cruffsant. The latter works exceptionally well with Ticket and Salon because you can use him to send Euphoi back to the hand, trigger both spells to set a trap or spell card, add a monster, preferably a level 4 Madolche, and make Cruffsant more useful as an overlay unit. You can also use Ticket's effect to add Gelato to the hand if you don't have him already, and use your extra normal summon from Salon to summon Euphoi to use its effect to summon the same Gelato in order to search for another spell or trap card. If you choose to use Ticket to add Butler Rust, you can use your additional normal summon from Salon on him to add Madolche Chateau. Then use your 2 level 4s to XC summon Glass Souffle, since she can allow you to make more plays on your opponent's turn. I also recommend activating Chateau before any monsters go into the graveyard. Next, I'll move on to the Madolche's main strength, the Disruption tactics. One of my favorite things about this archetype is how fun and easy it is to cause problems for the opponent while giving myself the advantage. The monsters that do that best are Glass Souffle, Tiara Mizu, Tiara Fresh, and Pudding Sis. Tiara Mizu and Tiara Fresh can remove problematic cards on your opponent's side of the field without targeting them, a useful feature. Glass Souffle's ability to manipulate both graveyards is also suitable for disrupting opponents whose decks rely on them, while her protection effect can also save one of your monsters in a pinch. Pudding Sis's effect of destroying a card your opponent controls after battling is also helpful, but her real power comes from somewhere else. As with any other, the deck's best disruptions come from their trap cards, those being Promenade, Knights, and Tea Break. I've gotten a lot of flack for using the latter 2 cards from other so-called Madolche players, but seeing as how all the critiques come from those who don't play pure builds, their opinions don't matter. Of course, I'll admit that they were hard to use back in the day, but their new support has made them much more viable. I say it's foolish not to use them, considering that they're not only counter traps, but also allow Pudding Sis more utility. Promenade's ability to negate monster, spell, and trap effects while also helping to clear the graveyard of monsters is one way to make using Tea Break and Knights easier. The trick is to plan things out so you can use them when needed, even if your opponent makes a move that ends with a few Madolches getting stuck in the graveyard. For example, because it places 3 monsters in my graveyard, I tend to avoid summoning Meowcarons on my first turn unless I'm 90% sure my opponents can't negate its effects. Even with their summoning effect reducing the number of monsters in the graveyard down to 2, and Ticket and Salon working their magic to help get the XCs and other trap cards ready, the only one that'd be able to reduce the graveyard enough to keep the disruptions coming on your opponent's turn is Glass Souffle, since her effect can be used to reduce the number of monsters in your graveyard to 1 on your first turn. Using either Queen instead of the Teacher wouldn't work in this scenario, because while they can disrupt your opponent by removing their cards from the field, the original can do it on the first turn most of the time, and the rank up can only do so on the opponent's turn, and would still leave 2 monsters in the graveyard after using her effect, making your counter traps useless. And while you could use Chateau to clear the graveyard, the problem with that is that while it would reduce the need for Glass Souffle and her effect, you end up putting yourself in a tight spot since Tiara Fraiche needs at least 1 Madolche card in the graveyard before your turn ends so she can use her effect, which, again, is unlikely on the first turn. And because Promenade requires you to return a Madolche on the field or graveyard to the hand as cost, and this particular scenario has only 2 on the field and none in the graveyard, Promenade will force you to either get rid of your Link or your XC. See the issue? This is just one specific example, but I wanted to emphasize how important it is to be mindful of your graveyard, since the order in which you activate your traps will play a crucial role in keeping your advantage. The best method for utilizing your disruptions is to use Promenade's negation effect to empty the graveyard. This will trigger Ticket's effect to special summon Pudding Sis from the deck. Pudding Sis will activate and special summon Pudding Cess, who can then take full advantage of T-Break and Knights to further disrupt the opponent. You don't necessarily have to have both counter traps on the field, but you should add or set the one you believe you'll need the most. Desert isn't as glamorous when compared to the other traps, but its simple effect of removing one of the opponent's monsters from the field is perfect for preventing extra deck summons. Though it has other uses, its usefulness in any given situation depends on whether you've been using Chateau efficiently, keeping your best Madolche monsters in your hand, and which effect you choose to use on whoever's turn it is. If you choose to use Desert's first effect on your opponent's turn and have the option to summon Pudding Sis from your hand, you can use her to summon whichever Madolche monster is best suited for your situation. Juwelier is a good target if you're dealing with a lot of monsters during the battle phase. If you control a beast, you can special summon Madolche to add a spell or trap you need. Salon and Ticket will also be triggered, so you can do even more to set up for your next turn. During your next turn, provided the conditions are right, you can trigger Promenade's graveyard effect, attach Madolche Pudding Cess to one of your rank 4 Madolches, then use this to special summon Chocolat a la Mode to give yourself more summoning opportunities. A la Mode's first effect can trigger Desert's graveyard effect to attach it to one of your Exceed monsters as an overlay unit. This is also good for keeping your other Madolche monsters attached to the XC and out of the graveyard. Also, suppose you use Desert to summon an Exceed monster, preferably Glass Souffle or Tiara Fraiche on your turn. In that case, you can pair with Promenade's graveyard effect to provide a crucial overlay unit to use on your opponent's turn, allowing you to activate their effect. You can even do the same on your opponent's turn if you can manage to shuffle a Madolche card back into the deck. Since I've already gone over the swarming capabilities of the Madolches, I don't think there's much need to go over their battle tactics, aside from mentioning that you should use Madolche Chateau to boost their attack points. That being said, there's still one thing I want to go over for those who want to try it, though you're unlikely to see it to completion in a duel, especially now. This combo is a bit impractical since the essential card needed for it, Desperate Tag, can't be searched, meaning that it's the only card in the deck where your only chance of getting it is through luck of the draw. It makes it so that if your attack position monster is destroyed by battle, you can reduce the damage you would take to 0 and then special summon a level 4 lower warrior monster from your hand. In addition to Desperate Tag, you'll need Chateau, Juwelier, Gelato, or another Juwelier in your hand. It all depends on whose turn you choose to set things in motion on. You'll also need Madolche walls in order to actually deal damage. A Juwelier on the field will make it so your opponent can only attack him during the battle phase, and if they choose to do so, you can summon the other Juwelier from your hand after the first one is destroyed. The destroyed one's effect combined with the Chateau will return him to the hand, and Waltz will deal 300 points of damage. On your turn, You can crash your Madolche monster, preferably one of your warriors, into your opponent's stronger monster. Deal with 300 damage with Waltz, summon the extra Juvelier or Messengelato from your hand, and return the destroyed Madolche to your hand to continue the cycle until your opponent runs out of life points or decides to surrender. You can even stack the effects of 2 Waltzes to deal more damage. And those are the combos that I've learned for the Madolche deck. There are a few more, but I always prefer to leave a few for you guys to learn on your own. All that's left now is to go over one more thing: the deck's final stats. If you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that I use 3 essential categories to determine a deck's merit: its overall power, adaptability, and the ability to recover. Starting with their power rating, I'm giving them 4 pieces of candy out of 5, due to their swarming tactics combined with their potential power boost, putting them on equal footing with the other decks. For adaptability, I'm also rewarding them with 4 pieces of candy. The reason is that they have several ways to keep their opponents off balance with their negate and card removal effects. They're also able to utilize both an empty and full graveyard to their advantage, if you're careful enough. And finally, we have their recovery rating, for which I'm rewarding them with 3 candies. Their ability to add and return to the hand is a definite game changer, but their reliance on their spell cards to do so makes them less efficient, especially since they can't always be protected. There's also the fact that a single hand track can stop them in their tracks if you aren't prepared. And that's all from my Madolche deck build and strategy guide. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh! And gaming content. Be sure to vote on which of my decks you want to see me do for my next video. And if you think you found a combo here that I haven't gone over, be sure to share it in the comments section. All this talk of sweets is making me hungry, so I'm going to sign off here. Au revoir, everyone!